Good evening and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Next Round Sports. This is Chris Porter here with Caleb Culver and Jeff Amos. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Hola. We're getting
Season's
by.
over. The season's over. We're done.
This is
We're
why we
all
don't
done.
give you the red button, Jeff.
Well, we're glad everybody's here. I know Jeff was feeling a little under the weather. Caught some of Montezuma's revenge from Kelly's trip back from Mexico.
Yes.
Mhm.
Ugh. Blech, blech.
But he is troopering on and ready to talk some sports here with all of us here this evening. Remind
Mhm.
everyone to like and follow us all on all social media platforms, Next Round Sports. And we'll go ahead and get into the first segment, the first round here tonight, which is the NFL. NFL season is now underway, fully officially underway. And
Yeah.
only one team out of our teams is 1-0.
Yep.
And who
They
would
are.
that be?
Yeah.
It would be the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey.
Very surprising win too. I figured they'd start out with a loss with
I didn't think it was
Cleveland.
that
Cleveland didn't
surprising.
lose at home
It's not
last
how-
year, so
no, no, no.
congratulations on
It was
getting.
That's not
surprising that they
surprising.
blew them out the way that they did, but I wasn't surprised by them winning.
Well, we know you're not. You're a fan of theirs.
Well,
I was
no,
surprised by them winning.
I-
Jeff
I
was
frankly-
not.
Trash. We'll just say it. Deshaun Watson's trash. He's trash.
And he'll never be what he was ever again.
No.
Deshaun Watson is arguably, along with Daniel Jones, as we discussed off air, are arguably the two worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, Deshaun Watson at this point in time, I don't know what happened to him. I mean, well, we all know what happened
it's
to him
the
off the
new
field.
maybe it's the new lawsuit because now he has another lawsuit of
Well,
sexual
I
assault.
think He's
Brand new
never been the
lawsuit.
same
That's
since
funny.
any of the off the field stuff happened. He's never been the same
Oh, yeah.
guy.
Which is
And-
weird. Which is kind of we've seen that I think throughout sports. If someone's taken a year off for disciplinary reasons or whatever the heck it is, for some reason they just don't come back the same player.
Le'Veon Bell.
And
Mm-hmm.
I just it's
You
unbelievable.
just don't want to
I mean,
miss a year.
Deshaun Watson will now go down in history as far as
He
I mean,
missed
he'll-
almost 2 years.
Right. Yeah, it's really almost 2 years for Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, basically, I think if you're Cleveland, I mean, you're screwed, and you're screwed. I just at this point, you just
Well, you're screwed if your defense doesn't do better. That defense got shredded, and it's supposed
I
to
don't
be
think
one of
it-
the more
I don't think it
more
got
formidable
shredded.
leagues. It got shredded.
no, it didn't.
Yes, they did. Miles Garrett got held up by the rookie that they drafted, Tyler Guyton.
Tyler Guyton.
Had a great game
Really
against one of the
shut down Myles
all
Garrett.
pros. Yeah. Meanwhile, the back end, Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb are just catching it like nothing's happening.
Well, I mean, Garrett still, got a sack, and I thought they put solid pressure on Dak. I don't think, necessarily, Dak didn't go off in this game at all by any means. I think they did a good job pressuring Dak. Obviously, a strength
Well, he
of
didn't really have to, considering Turpin was running in a punt return for a touchdown, and the defense was getting turnovers to where they were working with short fields. I mean,
right. I'm not
Right.
saying that it was a recipe that Dak had to be great to win this game. That we saw that. What I'm saying though is
And
that
Zeke actually
I
did
still-
show some treads on the tires, which is surprising.
I
that was
thought
very
Zeke.
surprising.
Well, I thought Zeke, did what he was supposed to do in the sense of at least, providing decent pass protection and providing an occasional decent run.
That's what
which
he is
did.
now in his career. Is he can come in and protect the pass, which he's always been a very good
Mhm.
pass
Yes.
protection running back. But now you're not expecting him to break it for a long run. That time is gone now. He's
And that's
basically now a
fine.
bowling ball you put in on the goal line and just ram it down somebody's throat. Because he's still strong enough at least to do that.
Right. And I
Mhm.
just I still really think two stories out of this. Deshaun Watson was terrible, but at the same time, you have to give credit to the Dallas defense and just DeMarvion Overshown. My gosh,
Having
people.
having him back, I think that really hurt them last year. Him getting hurt because I was really high on his when they drafted him in the second round.
Yes,
Because I was big on him in Texas. I thought he was a great versatile player. I was really excited, looking forward to him playing, and him being out the whole season. I think really hurt the defense. So having him come in was I thought was a huge pickup. It was almost like signing a free agent because you were able to bring him in and have him start working. And I really enjoyed and just the way the defense played with passion.
yes.
Zimmer really
Yeah. The Cowboys
brought
do
it out
usually
of
start out strong, though.
they do.
Yeah. Now, the crazy talk about how much Mike Zimmer is better than Dan Quinn needs to die down a
I'm
little
not
bit.
saying that.
I think that's hype. Yeah. There's some hype
That
going
was
on
all hype,
around.
and that's just, that was clickbait. That's just people trying to get clickbait going and trying to build up some sound bites for whenever they play Washington, and that's all that is. No, I'm very happy with everything that was given to us before. But Zimmer came in the way the defense played. I expected Zimmer to have them playing at a high level because he is a very good defensive coordinator. I mean, that's why he got the job in Minnesota and held it for as long as he did, even though they didn't do anything. Because the guys play for him and he puts out good defenses. And
Right.
Mhm.
I won't say that he's better like right off the bat, but the defense played better this week one than I expected them to play off the bat. Like they looked like they've been running this defense for a long time, and maybe that helps when you have Eric Hendricks come in to help kind of
I was about to
someone
say
use this
he
guy
is
to come in and help
fantastic.
communicate that. He had a fantastic game to help being that veteran to communicate to everyone down where they need to be. But they looked sharper. I expected them to look like this, like maybe week 3, 4 after they had a couple games in. But they looked really sharp. And if the defense stays strong like that, it's gonna be hard.
Well,
It's gonna be
that's
hard to
the
beat.
key. Is
You
kind
don't
of
you
me and
don't
Jeff were
expect
discussing it. It's one of your favorite places we like to go to now called Desperados.
uh,
That the Cowboys like they start out so strong, but then they just kind of tail end and die.
One thing I will say though is also too we had a resurgence of D-Law on Sunday. He had a fantastic game. A couple sacks for him. He was all around the quarterback. I thought he had a great game. Also, I think people forget how good the secondary was as well. Trayvon Diggs looked great. Kalen Carson looked great.
Yeah,
Just a
they've got a great
great.
set of DBs back there for sure on the Cowboys.
well, what they need is it looks good now, but it would look a lot better had Deron Bland not been knocked out. Part of the
Sure.
that hurt. That did hurt, but they looked serviceable back there after that. Diggs looked back in form, and he wasn't taking the risks that he had been taking before. He looked more
Right.
staying in a shutdown role. He was able to get that interception off the tip ball, but I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's what I don't need him to get, 7, 8 interceptions in the year. Just shut down whoever you're on. Because they really
Hmm.
rarely threw it to him at all. I mean, whenever Watson could get a throw off because he was getting terrorized by D-Law, Micah Parsons was all over. It was like chasing him down, headhunting him down the entire time. Very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, yeah, and chasing like there was a bounty on his head. Full show.
And then, of course, right before the game gets underway, news breaks that the Cowboys and Dak Prescott come together for the new contract extension, making him the highest paid football player in history.
Yes, at 10:30 Central, roughly. And really, what it boils down to is the Cowboys had no choice but to do it.
Well, we talked about it last time that we spoke. Is that I knew he was going to get signed. You knew it was going to happen because they signed CD. If they didn't
Right.
sign CD and they just ran with him, you knew they were just going to see what happens and blow the team up. But they signed CD. You're not going to sign a receiver if you don't have a quarterback to throw to him. That's not a success to win scenario. Anybody that wants to argue that, look at Calvin Johnson, Megatron back in Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, he had
Yeah.
Stafford thrown to him, of course, but
Yeah.
didn't have anything else.
Right. There are no other weapons on
But
on that
You
team. There are
don't
no
you don't
offensive
sign a
line.
receiver if you don't know who your quarterback's gonna be. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I knew they were gonna sign him. I knew it was gonna happen. And I knew he was gonna get paid because that's where the market is right now. All the leaves Jerry waited for all the leaves to fall so that he had to make
All
him
the
the highest
leaves fall.
paid. And yeah, he's the highest paid ever right now. But guess what? Whoever's next is going to get paid more than him.
Oh, yeah,
just keep
for sure.
frogging until it finally falls through. But right now, that's going to happen for quarterbacks because that is the most important position. If you do not have a quarterback, it's going to be hard for you to win.
Right. And that goes back to how, even though it seemed insane at the time, signing Mahomes for 10 years for $477 million, that is absolutely nothing
Yeah.
compared to what
That's
quarterbacks are
turned out
getting
to be
right
a
now.
great contract.
Because I believe Patrick Mahomes is like, 13th in the league roughly in quarterback salary. And
And every time he's asked about it, he goes, "What? I'm making lots of money. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm making good money and I'm winning the Super Bowl.
I'm making millions of dollars and I'm winning Super Bowls. Why do I need to worry about being the highest paid?"
Right.
Mhm.
And so, and then, I mean, that was a great steal for the Chiefs. But yes, with the exception of Mahomes, every other quarterback getting a next contract, or let's just say it's Brock Purdy. Will he get $60 million? Will he get $61 million a year? Well, what's the guarantee
No.
for Brock Purdy?
Well, right
So-
now, he's at least he can stand on that the success they've had so far. If San Francisco is able to win the Super Bowl before he gets his new deal, they're gonna have to pay him. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Well,
Of
I think
course.
this is so. This is why last year was
Especially
really
when you
critical.
now sign Debo Samuel, a juke.
They can't pay 7 dudes a shit ton of money. It's just
They
not
already
possible.
are paying.
Well, no,
Remember,
but
they're paying
no,
like
they
8
can't pay-
people over $15 million a year.
I mean, no, but they
Right
can't.
now.
They can't pay $60 million. That's why it was critical last year. I thought it was, hindsight, pretty imperative that the 49ers won the Super Bowl last year. They blew that game, in my opinion. That was a game
Oh,
that
they
should
had
have
that game.
won. And I feel like their window for the 49ers is this year, because I just don't see how they can afford to win, or I don't see how they can afford to have a Super Bowl team or a deep playoff run team in the future with the way they're set up. If you pay Brock Purdy a shit ton of money, it's just not possible.
We'll see.
Or do they just let him walk, or maybe trade him?
I think. Well, I think you could say. I mean, theoretically,
you got him with the Mr. Irrelevant pick.
yeah.
So
I mean,
that's where you can test. Okay, is it just the system, or is it actually he's that good?
yeah, and I mean, I think there would be, some entertainment to the idea of just letting Purdy walk. I think it'd be crazy, but yeah, I think there'll be some talk of that for sure.
Oh, I mean, there has to be. I mean, there's going to be people on both sides of it, just like there was on the Dak signing. People are gonna be like, we don't need him. We can do better. Oh, who are we going to sign? He fits our system so well.
Yeah.
There's going to be people on both sides.
And also, as we're already talking about the 49ers, as we kind of ended up getting into it, Christian McCaffrey out hurt,
Mm-hmm. What
Yeah,
else?
that
you know?
didn't matter on Monday.
and his backup came in
Yeah, the
and
Jets
just
looked horrendous.
torched the Jets.
Yeah, he had over 100 yards. Or
Aaron
no, he didn't have
Rodgers
100
did
yards,
not
but he was
get
close.
Aaron Rodgers did not get hurt. He made it
Yeah,
through the game.
if you had over 10 snaps for Aaron Rodgers in the year, you won this year.
Yes. So that's a win right there. But Saleh is going to be on the hot seat if this defense looks as porous as it did through that entire game. And
Oh,
he's
fired.
who's a
Yeah.
Jets fan.
Yeah,
I told
dang,
her,
yeah.
hey,
Jordan Mason
look
with
at-
147 yards.
yes, you let
Killing
Jordan Mace go. He was on no one's team, fantasy team. But at the same time, as I looked there and said, look, you're playing the 49ers. That's nothing really to hang your head out. They're a good team. Even with this Mace kid, they have the system built for Christian McCaffrey to be successful. I mean, it's going to,
Right.
another running back's going to be able to run behind that. You can throw any running back behind that line, and they're going to look
Right.
good. I go, so don't hang your head too bad. But you need to see how they go against Tennessee here this next week. And
Yeah.
if they get ran over by Tony Pollard in Tennessee, then okay, now you need to start worrying. And Saleh needs to start, hitting the classified ads because
Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
done for sure if they don't make the playoffs. And I don't even know if necessarily making the playoffs and getting eliminated early would be good enough to save his job. Because really, the Jets, to me, I mean, their defense was awful, which they hang their hat on. And then offensively, the Jets looked exactly how they've always looked, which is mediocre
Wilson and
to
Breece
bad.
Garrett
Yeah.
Wilson, Breece Hall, that's it. That's it. Just
Yeah.
a steady dose of those two. And then Alan Lazard catching a random,
Two
random
touchdowns.
Oh God, that
yeah.
was random. Yeah, but that random long one. Yes.
It was a free play. But Aaron
Yes.
Rodgers is great at free plays. He has the most touchdowns of any other player during free plays. So,
I believe
Mhm.
that. Yes.
well, that was the stat that came up during the game when he threw that touchdown to Alan Lazard. He has more
But yet,
free play
yeah.
touchdowns than any other quarterback.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. You always see Aaron Rodgers take advantage of that free play, so it does make sense.
But yeah, the Jets they've got a lot to get worked out. The season's still early. It's only one game, but I do believe that if they don't, especially if it's not got the benefit of the doubt that with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt with that accident game one last year, but if the defense is terrible and they end up not making the playoffs or making it and getting thumped in the first round, I think he's gone. They're gonna find somebody else at that point.
Agreed.
You'd have to.
And I don't think it's too late to discuss what happened on Thursday night
Nope, not too late.
to one team.
Oh, no, never too late. Not when you miss it by a toe.
Just by a toe.
Ravens losing
So-
to the Chiefs, and I think the best game of the week, in all honesty. Very entertaining
Yeah.
to watch too. I think on both ends.
Yeah, it was a great game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game to watch as a fan of football for most people, but there was also some very frustrating things if you were, I think, a Ravens fan at least.
Oh, you're
And
talking
those would
about
be-
the legal lineups, legal formations.
Yeah, you got 6 of them to start out the game. 2 of them on your All-Pro Ronnie Stanley.
yes.
Kansas City did
just
the same thing
undisciplined
later on in the
football
game, and
on
they
some
were
of
not
them.
called. They were not called whenever Kansas City did later in the game.
Well, the only kind of weird thing to me, I mean, I don't blame the rest for this loss, don't get me wrong at all, but also Steve Spagnuolo, coordinators cannot call timeouts. It has to be the head coach or a player. But somehow Steve Spagnuolo gets his timeout called and stops and was able to adjust his defense. And granted, it wasn't the goal line play that ended it by any means, but like I said, there's some weird things. Like I like the meme going around right now that I think it was Friday night in Sao Paulo where one of the refs got injured and somebody put him in a Chiefs uniform, and they're like, "This is going to hurt the Chiefs season."
I did see that. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it was definitely the Ravens, and it's not just the penalties that came out of it. It's more the fact too, the play calling. I think Rex Ryan said it best on Friday morning after this. It's like we might owe Greg Roman an apology because the guy that's calling plays, Todd Monken, that we've been praising. Like, what are you calling? Like, Derrick Henry's got like 7 rushes in the first half, and you're dropping back to pass like 82% of the time. He's not Tom Brady. We saw Lamar Jackson miss his throws over
Derrick
his
Henry,
guy like twice.
Yeah, but Derrick Henry can't run the ball 30 times anymore.
We don't know that. If
yes,
he can't,
we
then
do.
why the hell did we sign him? If he can't, I mean, Harbaugh said that's not the plan to run him like 30 times a game anymore. And I kind of get that. I get that from the standpoint you've got depth, you've got Lamar Jackson running plays, but what in the hell was that play calling with all those passes?
Because I don't
dropbacks at least 2 passes.
Well, I think what I got out of this is, I mean, you could say this any year with Lamar, but especially from what I saw after that first game, I don't see how he makes it out of the season alive. I mean, he just can't be. I mean, every time he's either running the ball or throwing on the run and getting hit. He is truly their only source of offense on a consistent basis every single time.
Especially if you're not going to give Derrick Henry even a chance. Like, at least give him 10 runs in the first half. Because he's going to have to wear down that defense. That's what he does. He's not the big speed guy. He wears you the F down.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're getting,
and if you're not going to run it and pass it, let that restaurant. 4 yards of carry is still pretty damn good.
I said 3 yards of carry, and no, I just think that Derrick Henry is
less than you did, sir.
Derrick Henry. I'm not going to go out and say that he's at only Zeke Elliott level right now, but again, Derrick Henry is not. He's not a cornerstone piece of your offense anymore, and so what I saw, and I don't see Isaiah Likely.
Well, so far, I think it's play calling more than it is Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson at this point.
I just don't see.
And the coaches outcoached themselves again against the Chiefs, and it led to a loss because the coaches are the reason the Ravens lost in the playoffs too. They did the same kind of shit. They stopped running the ball and just passed it the entire game. Oh, and we lost. Let's do the repeat again. That makes no fucking sense.
With Isaiah Likely the entire game.
Of course you are. He's on your fantasy teams.
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Got him very last pick too. Both
yeah, because I mean, even I did. I thought Mark Jackson was going to get a little more share, or be a little more even.
Who's Isaiah Likely? I was like, watch, he's about to score me a bunch of points this year. That's what he is.
Right. Yeah, especially if you're able to snag him at the last player in the last 14th or 12th round, whatever it was.
He was in 13th round, second to last in one league, and the very last player in the other league. And he was probably my highest scoring player this week.
Okay. So if you didn't have Chicago Bears defense or the 49ers kicker, he was probably your highest scoring player, give or take.
Or Chris Boswell, Pittsburgh's kicker, 6 goals.
Yes,
true. Yeah,
for those who had him as well. But everyone talks about the toe being inbounds or fairly out of bounds. But
yeah, supposedly Mahomes told him to wear white cleats, is what he told Isaiah Likely after the game. It's like you should have worn white cleats.
The thing is, I go back to the last play where Lamar Jackson.
Oh yeah,
whiffed him by like 10 yards.
Granted, that receiver probably should have stopped based on the zone coverages, but it was way behind Bateman, I think it was.
In the end zone.
Oh, was it Flowers? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Missed it by wide open.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just that wasn't even close. But I'll go ahead and get this.
And I mean, we've commented on this. We've commented. I will go ahead then. I might be changing the subject on you, so go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and let's just not forget the defense though. Like they had their highs and lows too for the Ravens. Same thing with the Chiefs. Like the weird thing too was just the amount of missed tackles in this game was overwhelming to me. Like people just kind of like bounced off each other like ping balls. Like nobody was wrapping up to tackle in this game for some reason.
It was a very
Um,
stereotypical game one. Of the
Yeah.
series.
And then also the defensive miscue that allowed Worthy to get wide open to get his second touchdown of the game. And it was Marlon Humphrey who handed him off to nobody.
Xavier Worthy, I
unfortunately.
thought that was a great pick by the Chiefs, and he had a fantastic game.
It
He did. He had
was.
2
And Bills-
touchdowns
Bills
and
gave
70
him-
yards.
Bills gave him to Kansas City. Gave
Oh,
him.
Yes,
they
they
did.
did.
They did. They wanted Keon Coleman, I guess. He was not a bad guy. He had a good game too.
had a
But
good
yeah,
game.
you just don't give your number one rivalry what they want at the end of the first round. It's just, it's still dumb.
Fastest player ever.
But yeah,
Ever.
but yeah, that defense though, like I said, I mean, you saw good signs. Like the defensive pressure was better, and I thought we would get on week one. David Ajoba returning had a good game. Michigan guy missed last year. Most of last year. Owe had a good game. Trenton Simpson had a good game, filling in for Patrick McQueen, excuse me, who's now on the Steelers. So good luck getting your field goals kicked, McQueen. But like I said, there was highs and lows of that defense, but there was a lot of it. Even Roquan Smith just looked unable to tackle in this game.
He looked
And he got
sloppy.
6,
I was
but
surprised
yeah,
about that.
he did not. Yeah,
He did
him
not look
and
up
Marcus
for it.
Williams led the team with 6. Yeah, he looked sloppy and yeah, like you said, just not up to form. And getting run
Roquan-
over and missed sacks.
And Roquan may not even play this weekend, so we shall see on that.
Yeah, I think he'll play, but yeah, we'll see.
But I'll just go ahead and get this knocked out of the way. The Bengals lost to the Patriots. We suck. The end. I have nothing else to say.
Yeah,
Good.
Jeff's giving
There's
up on
more to
the
talk about
season.
and to break into this one. There's a lot more to break into this one.
Oh, there isn't. That is what it is.
Yes, there is, and it's just the surprising aspect. I was able to actually turn this game on for a little while because
Yeah,
Sunday Ticket gave a free preview for a little
Right.
while, so I was able to watch some of the game. This was one game I was interested in. One, because Joe Burrow is one of my fantasy quarterbacks, and two, I want to be able to talk about this game a little bit right there. And what really surprised me is how solid New England's offensive line looked. They looked like
Yeah.
in peak form, and I don't know if maybe just Cincinnati's still shaking the cobwebs off of the preseason, but that's New England looked really good down in the trenches. They were pulling, those guys were hustling, they were working as a unit. And that to me was one of the reasons why New England was able to win that game. Is they
yeah.
just
I mean,
pulled
Hendricks,
power defense.
your best
Yeah.
rusher, looked so frustrated the entire game too.
He did.
Like he even slammed his helmet on one point at the end on the bench. Just
Wait,
like what the
who?
fuck? Hendricks, I think it is.
Huh? I don't know who Hendricks is, but
Yeah, well, let me look up his name then.
no. But what I'm saying though
Because
is
he's
for
like
New
their
England.
all-pro defensive end or whatever.
Oh,
Henderson, that may be his name.
you're talking about Trey Hendrickson, yeah.
Hendrickson, yeah,
so-
sorry.
But Ramondre Stevenson ran all over the Bengals that game. The run defense was absolutely awful.
That's true.
And they got no pressure to the quarterback whatsoever. You had
said that line was good.
2 critical fumbles, one
It
by
looked good.
Charlie Jones on the punt return, and then one by
Yes.
Tanner Hudson as he is crossing the goal line. Jamar
Mhm.
Chase, I think the whole contract deal, they could say that it didn't have an impact on this game, but I thought it did tremendously. And then this is 3 years in a row now where the Bengals have lost the home opener, and we're on the verge of being 3 straight years in a row where we start off the season 0-2. And
Yeah.
Joe Burrow apparently, what I can't figure out, and I blame this on the coaching staff, one for lack of preparation, and two, horrendous play calling, is why couldn't the Bengals throw the ball beyond 5 yards? it was like against the rules to do that.
Yeah.
I'm no, and they want and
Or was
all
it
they're
because T.
all they're
Higgins was out,
saying
maybe? T. Higgins
no,
was out?
no, no. All they're saying is, oh, the Patriots took away the deep ball. No, they fucking did. You didn't give it a fucking try.
Well, you only had Chase going deep, so they could just double him. So who else is there to go deep and be trustworthy and catch
There's
it?
other
Tyler
guys
Boyd,
that
right?
you could have gone
Tyler
deep
Boyd's
to.
a speedster.
And Jamar Chase.
Tyler Boyd's not there anymore.
The thing is, Jamar Chase. No,
Nah.
Tyler Boyd is gone. Yeah, who would have been nice to have yesterday since T was out of the game. But
Still hasn't practiced.
Jamar
this week.
Chase, I don't care if Jamar Chase is doubled or not. You still go to Jamar Chase because apparently, at least according to him, he's the number one wide receiver in football. So you might as well still go to him deep. I just don't buy the theory that we were incapable of going deep. Also, another thing that I heard about that game, we had Zach Moss was our leading rusher with 9 carries for 44 yards, while Joe Mixon in Houston on Sunday had 30 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. So, that would have been nice to have Joe Mixon as well. But it just goes to show you when you have, opportunities like you did 3 years ago now with the Super Bowl, and then 2 years ago with the AFC Championship game, like, those chances just don't come around all the time. And
Yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
I don't think I don't think we have the coaching staff that can ever take the Bengals back to a Super Bowl again. And the problem is, I don't know when Zach Taylor will get fired or can get fired. But so you have Kansas City next week, and there's no way in hell that they can stop.
I
Kansas
think
City
Zach
from-
Taylor's at least on the hot seat right now because they've missed the playoffs now 2 years in a row. Now, one season you can say Burrow was injured, so he kind of gets a pass by some people for that one. But there's got to be pressure building on him at least.
Probably not. I mean, not with the way this team runs things. They want you to. How they do things is, see, you got to the Super Bowl, you got to the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. Not too many teams do that. So just be patient, and things can turn around when. I don't think they've always won in spite of Zach Taylor, in my opinion. So Zach Taylor will be there as long as his contract is valid, and his contract goes through the end of 2026. So I don't anticipate him leaving until that time. And it sucks, but it's just, I think that's the reality, and that's how historically the Bengals have run things.
At least you had Logan Wilson, I guess, on your defense, getting you 12 tackles. That was a pretty good game.
Oh, he's
3
always.
QB
I mean,
hits.
yeah. I mean, if
sacks,
there's one
makes
guy
sense.
that's going to consistently, wreak havoc on the field, or at least show a pulse, it will be Logan Wilson. So yes.
Mhm. Very true.
Well, looking
And-
ahead into this coming week, Cincinnati taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Taylor Swifties in Kansas City.
Hmm. At least Kelsey's looking old for you now.
Hmm?
So at least Kelsey's looking old now.
He is, but also with his new haircut, he looks like Uncle Rico.
Yes,
Yes.
he does.
That's right.
Hmm. That he does.
I don't really, in a game like this, I don't think there's really, a whole heck of a lot to analyze. The Bengals, I don't think have any ability to stop Patrick Mahomes at all. And you didn't even face in my opinion, a legitimate starting quarterback last week. Or 3 days ago, you faced Jacoby Brissett, and now you're going to go against the best quarterback in the NFL in Mahomes. And I don't see how you could stop a guy like Xavier Worthy. They showed no ability to stop the run whatsoever. And the Bengals showed no ability to throw the ball beyond 10 yards. And I don't see really why it would all of a sudden get better just based on one
That's
week.
usually how you beat the Chiefs, though, is just keeping Mahomes on the bench. So if they can do a possession game where they dink and dunk and just run it down the field, ideally,
Well, I
then
mean,
yeah, they could
the problem
at
is,
least
I
keep
mean,
themselves in the game.
T. Higgins is probably going to be out again. And then there's a chance that Logan Wilson could even be out for the Bengals on Sunday. So I just, this is a recipe for disaster. And it's a shame everyone across the country is going to be able to watch it Sunday afternoon. This is not going to be good.
Yeah, that will be the game of the week.
All right, and then your Ravens
Mhm.
going against the Raiders.
Yep. Hopefully we can turn it around against them.
I think you will be. The Raiders are not. They got blown out by the Chargers this last week.
That
They
was
did.
bad.
And that was kind of surprising too. It's like J.K. Dobbins back from the dead for the Chargers.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
that's what happens
Sitting
if
on the
you're
bench.
Oakland and you have,
Well, J.K. Dobbins, 135 yards.
I
Mhm.
mean, the only positive last week or the few days ago for the Raiders, I thought Brock Bowers looked pretty solid, the rookie tight end. But Gardner Minshew, again, at least he's a very, very solid backup quarterback, but he's not obviously going to take you to the promised land. The Raiders, I think, are
Yeah, but I mean, Minshew was still 25 for 33 with 257 yards. That's a good game by your QB for the most part.
I think with
Besides his interception, but he also got sacked 4 times. So
Well,
they were getting
say
pressure on
line.
him for sure.
They don't believe in building an offensive line anymore.
well, that too.
This is your John Madden's Raiders.
Yeah, I mean they don't have an offensive line. So I mean, if the Ravens were to somehow lose their home opener, that I would laugh my ass off. I just can't envision a scenario to where they could possibly lose this game.
Yeah. Not with the inability of the Raiders to run the ball too. So
No.
we should easily walk away with a win. But that being said, usually spells problems for the Ravens. So we'll have to see, especially early in the season.
Although the Ravens
Yeah.
did lose
So the
on
Ravens
the road.
are a 9-point favorite right now.
Although the Ravens did lose on the road in week 2 to the Raiders in 2015. So
Yeah.
it came
That reminds me of all the talk that the Ravens were putting out after they lost to the Chiefs. They got mad at the Chiefs and supposedly said, "We'll see you in the playoffs."
Okay. That's what
Kyle
they always say.
I forgot to mention too, Kyle Van Noy is going to be out a couple games with a broken orbital bone.
That's
around his eye
interesting, though.
socket.
That's interesting.
Supposedly
But
he had to wait a whole quarter to be seen by an eye doctor in Kansas City, apparently too.
well, that just shows you know, those NFL player surveys can indicate, some truths. I mean, that the Chiefs, I believe, had like an F or a D or
They had an F,
really
but Kyle Van Noy even pointed that out in his comments. Like they had an F for their training staff.
wow.
So Kyle Van
Yeah,
Noy's
so
like,
there
I
you
guess it's
go.
true.
Yeah, and
That's why
there's
it
a
took
reason
him
why.
so long to get him medical attention. He was
Yeah.
not happy about it.
And then especially like something like with an orbital bone, that's not something you fuck around with. I mean, that's not an injury I would like to have as a football player. That can really not only screw up your football career, but it can screw up your life too. So that's
Yep.
not a fun injury to have. But how do we feel about Cowboys Saints? Any concerns? The Saints did kill the Panthers, although they could be the worst.
It
team in
was
the
the
league,
Panthers,
It
but
was the
yeah,
Panthers. They did what
it
they
was.
were supposed to. They did what they were supposed to. They didn't let them off the hook. They whipped
Yeah.
the Panthers like they should have whipped them, and I think it'll be. And I think Dallas is going to win this game.
They're
think
favored by
will be
6.5 points right now, basically a touchdown.
I think Dak will be pretty mediocre, pretty much about the same he was with Cleveland. But yeah, Carr, I think he's going to fold. He's going to fold like he always does, and they're going to.
He could, like we said, the Cowboys do have a good defense. We've known that.
Exactly, and I don't think, and that's a higher quality defense than what Carolina was trotting out on the field. So, yeah, I see this being. I don't see it being a big win by any means because Saints can score. They still have some good players, but I don't think they have enough good players to be able to stop Dallas and finish it off.
Yeah, there's no way in my that Derek Carr can repeat anywhere close to what he did against Carolina, who could arguably be the worst defense in the NFL. I think really the only guy that you have to worry about if you're the Cowboys is Alvin Kamara, and if he can stop him, then I don't really see a route
It's a lot
to where
easier
the Saints score a
stopping
lot of
Kamara
points.
now than it was 3-4 years ago.
Well, that's the thing. You're
Yeah.
going up against
And this is
30-year-old
also at
Alvin
Cowboys
Kamara
Stadium
now.
too. This isn't at the Saints' home, so yeah. If this was possibly at the Saints, if the Saints had this as a home game, I'd say there's a chance they could win. But being on the road, I just don't see any way they could do it.
The
Which,
last thing we
ironically
need to
enough,
talk-
under McCarthy has been good at home, which is a relief because they were like 500 before McCarthy got there.
The last thing we need to talk about is big thing in the news: Tyreek Hill getting detained before going to the game, speeding and not complying, which you don't hear that
Yeah.
in a lot of the different stories that have come up with him. Defending
Well,
himself.
I think the
and
initial ones
interviews.
didn't, but there's a lot more now. Well, of course, he's not going to say that in his interviews, but I think a lot more of the stories coming out are saying like this guy obviously didn't comply. But yeah, initially it was like he's on the ground, he's tackled, he's handcuffed. Another player that was talking to the cops at the same time got handcuffed. Yeah, trying to just be like, hey, we got a game to go to, which is not a valid reason to speed by any means.
No.
But yeah, definitely, like you said, after we said the body cam footage came out, Tyreek's trying to make himself a martyr when he is definitely not a martyr and
No, not at all.
was in the wrong 1,000 times over.
And then when I first was listening to the audio for this, and it just started playing the audio right at the very beginning when they pulled him over, I was sitting there thinking, oh, the officers, are in the wrong. They were excessive, but also Tyreek Hill's in the wrong because he's not complying. And then I only heard just the very beginning, to then watch the entire body cam footage. Okay, there was a long time before it got escalated further up. That Tyreek Hill escalated it by not following awful instructions. And
yeah, and it's instructions as simple as rolling down your window and keeping it rolled down.
That's it.
You're in a black tinted SUV. Of course, they're going to want the fucking windows down. They want to see if you're going for a weapon.
It doesn't matter what the windows are. It's always they always.
Yeah. Oh wow, those things were crazy. But at the same time, even if they knew it was Tyreek Hill or not, they don't know who this is. They're trying to keep themselves safe as well as keeping you safe.
Exactly.
That there's a reason why they're asking these commands is to keep you and themselves, keep everyone safe. So it's just follow commands. That's all you have to do. Follow the lawful commands.
Right, because right, and also too, you have to think about it. This would, say if he just did what Tyreek Hill told you to do. I mean, what a horrible precedent that sets. I mean, are you implying cops that when they go over and pull someone, do they have to go like, oh, please, sir, pretty please, can you roll down your window so I can get your identification? No.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you just like, especially with someone like Tyreek Hill, who's had, as we know, a myriad of issues off the field, to put it politely. And you would think someone like that would just
I don't know, maybe, initially do what the cop is told or is telling you to do and
Right.
cooperate.
Especially if you're speeding because you're supposedly late to get to the game already.
And I don't think, no, it's not an issue of being late. It's Tyreek Hill being a fuckstick
Oh,
and
I
wanting to show off
know it
his
is
car.
too. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to get out of that shit even faster, you just fucking comply with the commands. Call it a fucking day.
Man, guess what? And if it comes down to it, it's like, oh well, I didn't want to pay a ticket. You're making
Yeah.
millions of dollars. You can afford a ticket. If you're speeding, just say I was speeding, I was wrong, or I don't know why you pulled me over.
Right. It's like, I don't know how fast I was going, but yeah, whatever you want to say. Just don't be an ass.
He knew he was speeding. He knew he was speeding,
Hmm.
and that he got caught.
Right.
That's all the time I want to give to that because he's a fucking
Yes.
dick and he's dumb, completely
Yep.
dumb. He's got God-given talent, and he's gonna sit there and throw it away, being an idiot.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Mhm.
I think we hit in games 1, 2. The last one I did want to drop this in here right before we wrap this NFL session up, but I want to make sure everybody knows that the New York Giants lost 28-6 to Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. And
Oh.
that just made me so extremely happy that the Giants are as terrible as they are. And Brian Daboll already being asked if he's going to stick with Daniel Jones going into week 2 against the Commanders.
I thought we were
So-
going to leave little baby DJ alone. Poor guy.
At least one
Yeah.
week.
Poor guy.
He is the worst starting quarterback.
I don't know. Bryce Young could give him a run for his money right now.
Maybe, but Bryce Young, I still think is better than him slightly.
Maybe.
And Bryce Young, he's still only in his second year, and he's on the fucking Panthers. What can you do?
That is true. That is true.
It's not like he had Saquon Barkley right behind him the whole time, and then the Giants chose to pay Daniel Jones, which
Yeah.
you need to pay the quarterback over running back, but at this point they should have paid Saquon.
Oh, they should have 1,000%. I think we even said that, or at least I said that when they did this contract. Like, this is stupid.
You did. You said that's just terrible, and now it's coming back to bite him. So it makes me happy that the Giants will
Yep.
suck again.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back here in just a few moments with the next round. And welcome back from the break as we're ready to hit the next round and jump into college football. And we're going to start right there off the big game we talked about last week, Texas and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb, open
I have my
up wide.
yeah. Go for it.
Here's your crow that you're ready to eat.
Yep. Taking it all. Like, man, so much crow to eat. I think I have like 2 helpings.
That's
That
oh, yeah.
offense and defense just killed it.
Hey, you're man enough to take it. You were wrong, and you owned it.
Yeah,
So
I admit it.
I'm not going to
Like I
hold it
said,
over
I
your head.
fucked up that guess.
Yeah,
Still don't think Texas is the top 5 team just yet, but
Okay,
Going
no.
into
Let's start off with that. How is Texas not a
Go
top
ahead,
5
Joe.
team right now?
I just think there's better teams out there. But we'll get into that later.
With this
Like I
win,
said,
they've moved
'cause we're
up to
going to
number
come up
2
with
in the
8 people.
country, right
and
behind
we'll
Georgia.
talk about it when we get there. But I mean, Michigan State looks slow again. I figured the first game with that offensive line was going to, when they look so slow, was just, hey, it's the first game out of the chute. But no, this Michigan team shouldn't be in the top 10 either. At this point, well, they should be knocked down, and I think they are.
They did.
Yeah, they are.
Excuse
They're
me.
down
Yeah,
to
they
16.
got knocked down. Yeah, as they should. Because I was about to say, man, they better be. Yeah, that's much more appropriate for where this team should be. And like I said, we find those things out as the season rolls along and find out what teams are legit, which ones aren't, type of thing. But yeah, definitely much grow. Texas had a great game all around, just murdered them. There's nothing you can say, I think, besides that. They murdered them. You can say, oh,
This is
QB,
all-
yeah,
it
had
was
great
all
game,
around.
had good runs. Yeah.
They were hitting on all cylinders. Quinn Ewers looked.
This
You know.
is probably the meme where you're hitting something with a stick and someone saying they're already dead. Please stop.
Yes. Ewers looked in control the entire game. He looked calm, collected.
Yep.
He looked good. He definitely put some pressure up, or basically throwing his hat in for that Heisman Trophy. Which is, I
Yes.
think that's one of the reasons why he came back, trying to win a title.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah, I think Jeff said it good earlier. If he didn't get injured last year, he's probably gone. And
I think so as
possibly
well,
as a
too.
Heisman too.
I think he would have had a chance, at least a chance at the Heisman last year if he hadn't got injured. I think that really hurt him going on. I think he kind of took that personally. He's like, I need to accomplish this before I leave, because I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I just don't
You don't
see
think
him.
so?
I really don't. Maybe he could come in. I think he could be a solid backup. I think he could be real. Like, if he came in off the bench, I would feel good about that, especially if he's been there a couple of years. Maybe he can develop more into it. But to me, I mean, I don't think he's better than Colt McCoy was. Do you think he was better than Colt McCoy?
From a college standpoint, no. But I mean, he has I think, a better pro skill set than Colt McCoy for sure.
We could see, because Colt McCoy, I think, was a better quarterback than him, and he was a bench guy. I mean, he started for Washington, but everybody started for Washington during that time. I mean,
This is true.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
Them and the Browns, they have so many starting QBs.
I think at the very least, you could say the arm strength is better for Quinn Ewers than it was for
Yeah.
Colt McCoy.
that I won't argue. I won't argue the arm strength. I think the arm strength's a lot better for Quinn Ewers, but I think the accuracy was better for Colt McCoy.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, yes, because what we've seen, prior to this season is a very up and down career for Quinn Ewers. There are times where you think, oh, this guy is going to be 1-1, and then you see him in a couple games later, and you question whether or not he could be drafted. But he's had a great start to the year so far. Didn't succumb to any kind of pressure playing in the big house. He was flat out phenomenal, and as he stated, he's, if not the front runner, one of the front runners for the Heisman Trophy.
He's got to be the number one front runner right now. I can't think of anybody offensive or defensive wise in the country that's had the start that he's had and been able to come out.
Talk
looking
about
as
Oregon's
good.
quarterback.
They talked about him at first, but this last game, I think that talk died down some.
I mean, it's early. I mean, it was a close. I mean, they got it. They got the W still. I don't think you can write off Dylan Gabriel, but
They
yeah,
still dropped in the standings, but they did get the W, and they've dropped each week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and yeah, so it's interesting about Oregon, why they've struggled to start off the year. I think it's mainly just from a offensive execution standpoint. But going back to Texas, I mean, I think they're better than what they were last year. People were scared, like, oh, how are they going to bring? They're losing so much talent on the offensive side of the ball and all the skilled players. How are they going to rebuild? But I think what Texas has showed, or at least what Sarkisian has showed, is Texas is at the stage kind of like what Alabama was, in the sense where you just reload. I mean,
that's what I was going to talk about.
Apparently.
For this game, there were some analysts that were saying that Sarkisian has built Texas into the prototypical Alabama now, especially now that Saban's gone. What he's built there is, it's just the copy paste. Every year, it doesn't matter who leaves, we're putting new great top tier talent in, and has built this culture this Alabama culture down in Austin.
Correct. And
Yeah.
he and who better to lead that than Sark, considering he was under Saban for those many years
Right.
at Alabama.
Yeah.
And I Gunnar Helm was fantastic. I think that Gunnar Helm, he is going to be great. Or I mean, that dude's going to the NFL. The tight end for Texas. He had 7 receptions
Yes.
for 98 yards. He was phenomenal.
He's very, very good. That's one of the best tight ends I've seen from Texas in I don't know how long.
Oh gosh, yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen someone that looked that good. I mean, on a consistent basis, yeah, we saw flashes from JT Sanders, we saw flashes from Jermichael Finley, but like on a consistent basis, I can't. I mean, Gunnar Helm was just.
Michael Finley. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I know, yes, a former Packer, great.
True.
But
True.
and their offensive line hasn't, missed a beat at all. I think it's again incredibly underrated, and I think not great. I think a large part of this, I mean, their defense was solid too, but I think a large part of it goes to, as we kind of worried about this game for Michigan, is they have no offense whatsoever, and I not to say that Sharon Moore, the head coach that replaced. The coach that replaced Jim Harbaugh, can't be a good coach, but this team was underprepared going into the Fresno game and grossly underprepared going into this Texas game. I didn't see anything from a coaching standpoint in game that would lead Michigan to make any kinds of
the team looked like deer in headlights the entire game.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, your leading rusher for Michigan had 8 carries for 41 yards. That's your leading rusher.
Mm-hmm.
And
your
also,
QB had
missing
2
like
interceptions.
And also, Caleb, your boy Wink Martindale's a defensive coordinator for Michigan. And that's been a disaster so far, because you can't just throw the kitchen sink every time and expect it to work, especially at the college level. So yeah, I just don't think this is a very well coached team at this point in time, and they lost a shit ton of talent. This is going to be, people thought Michigan would take a step back and they'll take a step back, but they can get 8 or 9 wins. I'm looking at a team, maybe they can get to 8.
25.
I don't know if they can.
Well,
that's the thing. I'm not sure if they're
speaking
top 25.
That's what I was talking about earlier about. But I don't know if y'all seen the documentary about the cheating scandal that went on for Michigan. That's on one of the streaming services. Dang it, I can't remember what it is right now. Pat McAfee's synopsis of this was basically saying, if you believed Michigan was innocent, the documentary made you believe it. If you believe Michigan was guilty, the documentary made you believe it. So it's just kind of like.
Are you talking about the deal with what Harbaugh and all that this past season?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
do we think that had any more into it? I mean, maybe
not really.
They were doing something. They were playing above their level even last year.
I don't think so. I don't really think it had much of an impact at all. I think it was a good headline to have for college football throughout the entirety of the year, because at times the college football season last year was pretty boring. So it's a good consistent headline to have. I just, in my opinion, I don't think it really had much of an impact, because Michigan still took care of business against Ohio State like they had done the prior 2 years. They took care of Alabama in the semifinal, and they destroyed Washington. So, any team that was remotely, not at that level, they destroyed. So I just don't. I think the talent discrepancy on Michigan was so big to where it was any kind of scandal would be superfluous at that point. I don't think it had an impact on their win-loss record at all. I really don't.
Fair enough. curious to get your opinions. And we're talking about how bad Michigan is this year.
I think.
And
Well,
that's
I
what
think
the
the main
story
thing
was last
is,
year on them.
I mean, you're losing 16 starters and you lost Harbaugh. So, I mean, I think that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think they'll end the season out of the top 25.
Yeah, I think there's a strong chance that
Because
happens.
Iowa State beating Ohio State, as bad as Penn State looked this last week, I still think Penn State's going to be able to wipe the floor with them.
Sure.
And look at these other teams in the Big Ten. I mean, even though Iowa, only kicks field goals according to Jeff, Iowa is a good team. Can Michigan get past them? I don't know the way this team's constructed. I don't know if they're going to be able to even score on Iowa's defense. And
Well, I mean, yeah,
three teams right there.
Can Michigan beat USC? They get them at home, but can they beat them? I don't see. I haven't seen anything that would
right there,
indicate
possibly 4 to 5 losses, and the 4 or 5 loss team will not be in the top 25.
Yeah, and I think they'll lose to Oregon, obviously, and it's got to the point with Michigan now. Do you trust Michigan to even go on the road to Illinois and win? We saw KU last weekend go on the road and to lose at Illinois. So, yeah, it's going to be a long year for Michigan.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Yeah.
Another team going to have a long year. Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois, the Huskies.
I have to eat crow on
16 to 14.
I was putting Marcus Freeman in the NFL and saying how good of a coach he was. Good God. I don't know what to say.
He was completely outcoached. Northern Illinois coach was on fire. He put out the perfect game plan to completely shut down. And this is, to me, this is what you get when you're, instead of recruiting and developing your own quarterback talent, you keep going to the transfer portal and trying to get someone in every single year instead of building somebody up, from their freshman year all the way up and having a guy that you've had 3 years consistency with when they brought in that kid from Duke last year. This is what happens. You can't keep just transferring in a new quarterback and it's expecting everything to work out perfectly. They're not going to have the timing down. They'll have some time down. They'll have some working with these guys, but it's not like the years they could be building up if you developed your own talent. Just my opinion. I think this is because he looked terrible. He looked absolutely terrible in this game. And if you're going to look terrible in your Notre Dame, and at that point you're ranked 5th in the nation, there is absolutely no reason for Northern Illinois to come in and shut you down.
Right.
In South.
And also,
in
too,
South Bend.
I think this also sheds light on a couple things. One, before Riley Leonard went down officially to injury last year, his last 3 games were god awful, and Duke lost all 3 of those games. And also, too, we discussed the fact that was Mike Elko forced by the powers that be, by A&M to keep Wegman as a starting quarterback. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but the reality is he was the coach of those final 3 games at Duke for Riley Leonard, and he was fucking awful. And he has been awful so far. And also, you can't, if you're Notre Dame, you got to do something more on offense than just student body right and student body left. I mean, there's just really no creativity on that offensive side, and your defense can only hold so much. And also, too, Notre Dame, they should never have had an opportunity to even kick a field goal at the end of the game. Northern Illinois clearly got a first down, and the ref said they made a bad call on the field, and then they kept the call on the field, and then Northern Illinois had to make a 37-yarder, and then Notre Dame had time at the end to kick a super long field goal. But yeah, Northern Illinois even almost got screwed out of that game. But again, phenomenal job by Thomas Hammock, as you said, thoroughly outcoached Marcus Freeman, and this is becoming a trend now for Marcus Freeman losing games that you shouldn't lose. I mean, we saw Marcus Freeman, in his early years lose to Marshall at home. And just again, they kept saying going into this week, we are not going to allow, we're not going to get upset by a team that we shouldn't be upset by. And they did it again. So clearly there's an issue with game preparation or motivating your players, because that simply cannot happen after such a great win that you had on the road in Aggieland a week
Well,
and a
after
half.
throwing Caleb under the bus over the last game, I'm going to take him back out from under the bus, because he was already saying Notre Dame is ranked way too high. There's no reason they should be this good right now. They're middle of the top 25 at best.
Yes. Agreed.
So you completely called that right. See?
Yeah.
So it's us, but you know what? I'll
Win
pick you
some,
back
lose some.
up. But no, that was a good call on that, because that's exactly they fell, I think, 13 spaces, and they're down to 19.
Yeah, 18th and
18,
19th
19?
in the
Like
coach.
y'all said, you lose
so.
to Northern Illinois, an unranked team, at home no less.
Now-
You're going to lose some points.
Say if Notre Dame wins out, they'll probably still get in the playoff, right?
Oh,
That's probably
that's
true.
going to stay if they went out. But
Yeah.
being
I still
that
think
they
that's
were
the big if.
kept them in the top 25. If they would have been 10th in the country, I think they would have been out completely. But
Right.
that's just going with that right there.
Fair.
Iowa watch is off. I know that Jeff, is extremely happy about that, with Iowa State
Yes.
getting the
Yes,
29th.
I think you're taking a little too much, but yeah, that's a bad loss to Iowa State.
Well, it's not a bad
think-
loss. It's just the way they lost.
Very true.
They weren't
That's
even an
gonna be-
aim.
Same
They were at
can be
home.
said about Oregon and Boise State. Oregon won the game, but it's how they won the game. And how they
It is.
almost didn't too.
And Oregon, once
But
again,
I'm
they're
gonna.
2-0.
I do want to give
They
out a little.
dropped 6 spots.
They have. I got a shout out to Ashton Genty again. That might be the only other guy that's coming on for a possible Heisman talk. But we'll have to see. He now has 192 yards this game. He got 240 last game. He has 9 total touchdowns now after 2 games.
Something
I mean,
like
it's
that.
Boise
But
State,
yeah, he had.
but
Well,
goodness
no.
gracious.
The thing is, you do it against Oregon. That's huge. But I want to go back to that Iowa State Iowa game
go
before we
for
go too much into that Boise State Oregon. So, but Iowa was really in full control of that game. They were up 13-0, and then Iowa State, when it was 13-7, Iowa went for 2 after scoring a touchdown and made it 19-7. And if they had just kicked the extra point, it'd have been 20-7. And then the super long kick, the 54-yarder by Iowa State, would have only tied the game as opposed to win it by 1. This is why I always hate going for 2 too early in a ball game, especially if you're a team like Iowa and points are hard to come by. Just take as many free points as you can.
Well, maybe they thought they had a better offense than they thought. Or they have a worse offense than they thought I should take. They scored 40 points the first game, which is unheard of for Iowa.
And I think it's sad, too, because Caleb Johnson is a really, really good running back for Iowa. And he's their only source of offense, because Cade McNamara is a fucking joke. He failed at Michigan, and then he's now failing at Iowa. And you can say, like, oh, we don't have Kirk Ferentz's son coaching our offense anymore. Things are automatically going to get better. If you don't have the players, then it just doesn't matter.
Very, very true. So the top 10, the new top 10 coming down here this week. This is the AP poll, of course. Georgia staying right there at number 1. No reason for them to move the way that they've been winning. Texas moving up 1 to the number 2 seed. Ohio State dropping down to 3. Alabama holding strong at 4. And Ole Miss moving up 1 to number 5. Missouri jumped 3 spots to be at the number 6. Tennessee jumped 7 spots to get to 7. Penn State holding strong at 8. Oregon dropping down 2 spots to 9. And Miami going 2 stops up to 10.
Yeah, and USC been jumping 2 to 11.
So
Everyone expected USC to take a huge step back. Now, sorry, Jeff, I'm going to start you off since I said I would talk about it once we got here. Why Texas is not the top 5 team. I would honestly probably move them down to below Ole Miss.
Why?
Really?
Yeah, because I just think Alabama and Ole Miss, especially this year, I think is actually looking to do some things. We know Georgia, of course. That's why they haven't jumped. I mean, OSU hasn't really played anybody, but they've killed everybody that they played so far. And you're like, oh, they don't have Marvin Harrison. They still got some good wide receivers that are looking good out there. Alabama still has the talent from last year that got them into the playoffs and got them almost to the semifinal, or almost got them to the championship game, excuse me. And so, as I said, those are kind of where I have them, give or take, right now.
Okay, but how could you rate them below Ole Miss?
Rate them below because I think Ole Miss is set to do things. They didn't have a line last year, which was, I think, their biggest problem, and now they have a line. So they're ready to play with the big boys, I think.
No, all Ole Miss has shown thus far is that they can run the score on people. Until Ole Miss actually, get some quality wins
Texas
together.
has necessarily gotten quality wins either, as we said.
Well, it's
like I
better
said, like
than
I didn't think
first.
Michigan's very good anymore now. And
Well,
like I said, I'd eat the crow, but
right.
I said,
But
I thought it was
thing
first game
is,
jitters.
Yeah, the thing is that Michigan on the road is a hell of a lot better than beating Furman and Middle Tennessee State at
Oh,
home.
yeah.
I don't care
Well,
if
like
you beat them
Iowa
by a
State's like, was it
bajillion
Marshall
points.
and Central Michigan? So they haven't really faced anybody either. They're just running the
Right.
scores up.
But I mean, I think it's. I
Yeah.
just don't
And-
see how you can put.
And like
Texas.
I said, there could be more crow to come, and that's highly probable. And I would love for Texas to prove me wrong, but we'll see.
The only thing that bugs me
I don't
about.
understand how Penn State's ranked at 8 still when you almost lose to Bowling Green.
So how does Oregon drop 2
That
point
Threw
2
me off
spots?
completely.
How does
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. How does Oregon drop 2 spots? Yes, they barely won, but is at least it gets a legitimate team like Boise. Penn State barely gets by Bowling Green when they were 34.5-point favorites, but yet they
Mhm.
stay the same. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Penn State should have
That's-
dropped. If they're going to drop Oregon, like they had, Penn State should have dropped a couple of spots as well.
Agreed. Agreed.
That's why we're not on the committee picking these teams.
I think we should, because I think some of the people on the committee are idiots.
Well, we've done that for years. They've been kind of.
But yeah,
If
Oregon.
you
For a
want to
couple
be on the
years now.
committee, please like and subscribe so that we can get more famous, and then they
Right.
can give us committee.
You can get
If
your
somebody
comments
gets
in too.
The Hall of Fame as well, too.
It just
Mhm.
this Oregon deal is weird to me. I mean, they barely beat Boise. They barely beat Idaho. Idaho, I don't even know what that was. And then barely beating Boise. But Dylan Gabriel, his completion percentage 18 to 21. That's great. They're able to run the ball well. Evan Stewart is a fantastic wide receiver. I just think defense, and I think there's some play calling issues for Oregon right now to where they're not able to.
Yeah, well, their
extend
offensive
the lead.
line is just porous too.
Yeah, that hasn't been ideal either. So,
Mm.
um,
Yeah, what's kind of weird too. I'm
they
sorry.
got
do you have
4
more
sacks
comments
on
that?
Gabriel on.
Hmm.
By the way, on
Yeah,
Saturday night. So
I was saying I like K-State, but when you almost lose to Tulane, how do you move up 3 spots?
Mhm.
over teams that won.
I want to know why the hell K-State scheduled Tulane to begin with. You have nothing to gain by having them on their schedule, and yeah, you barely went on the road at Tulane, and then you lost to them at home when you played them a couple years ago. That's a game in which you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. But thankfully, K-State survived, and they have a big game on Friday against Arizona, which I think ultimately could be proved pretty important in the Big 12 race.
The team I'm wondering if they're actually a fraud or not is Miami. Miami coming up all the way now up at number 10 spot. They look good, but are they going to be able to keep this momentum rolling through the rest of the season and make a push into the playoff? Because it's been a while since Miami has been a legitimate threat in the ACC.
It has, but
Maybe-
they're looking tougher, and that QB play I think is going to help push them. In all honesty, to a better year than what they've had recently.
I think the key for Miami, yes, having Cam Ward on the team is a huge
Now,
asset.
the question
to
is,
have.
can he stay healthy too? Though
I think he can. I think that what's going to be interesting for Miami is that they really don't play anybody. If you look at their schedule right now,
Mm.
they only have one ranked team, and that's at Louisville on October 19th. The rest of their schedule, they do not face a ranked team at
Yeah.
all.
well, that's the
And-
dregs of the ACC. That's the curse of being in the ACC. Is once you get
Well, I
to
don't think it's
conference
a-
play,
I don't
They
think it's a
can't help
Who do you
curse
that
face?
now.
Florida State
No,
is
no.
underperformed. The Georgia Tech got knocked out of the top 25 last week with their loss.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm not blaming Miami for it, and I think it could actually help them because that could take Miami to the ACC championship game. And if they win the ACC championship game, as you know, that gets an automatic bid to the college football playoff. So
true, and I
I-
think
I
a first
think-
round bye too.
yes, a first round bye as well. So yeah, I think we could definitely be seeing Miami in the college football playoff again. I think there's going to be if not all the season, most of the season, trying to figure out how good Miami is because they're really not going to be.
They're not
playing
going to play
anybody.
anybody. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
But they're an interesting case, though. That's going to be an interesting case. I don't. I mean, I don't put too much stock in them beating Florida's ass on the road because, I
It's
don't think
Florida.
Florida is. Yeah, Florida, at least with Graham Mertz at the helm, is terrible. We'll see how DJ Lagway does for Florida, but I don't put too much stock in that win. But yeah, people are going to be jumping to put Miami, back, at that top level.
Right.
Everyone loves to see a good Miami team.
Yeah, very true. Now there's another team too. I'm going to put them in the same boat as K-State because they're in the same conference. Oklahoma State jumped up 3 after taking Arkansas to overtime. Now, Arkansas, I think, is a better team because Arkansas is unranked at the moment. But I think Arkansas is probably on the fringe top 25 team with that QB play they've got going on right now. But I mean, Oklahoma State didn't have an offensive touchdown until the second half. But they're going to jump 3 spots
Yeah, and
over everybody else.
I think what we saw this weekend, I mean, Arkansas completely blew that game. That game was going to be, if not 17-0, potentially 21-0. Arkansas, they give up the pick six, completely changes the tone of the game. And I think we're going to be looking at Sam Pittman for Arkansas being fired at the end of this year. That was a huge missed opportunity for Arkansas, especially for a coach trying to keep his job. That you cannot blow a game like that. So I think that was a devastating loss for Arkansas on Saturday.
Very true. Like I said, I mean, Ollie Gordon's still looking good too for them. Not as
Oh,
good
yes,
as
Ollie
Ashton
Gordon-
Gentry to me, but
No, yeah,
He had a good
Genty's
game.
looked phenomenal, but yeah, Gordon. I think really the key in that game for Oklahoma State was the play of Alan Bowman. I thought he looked
Mm.
really solid because, a majority of that game, Ollie Gordon just could not get things going, and that's why they had such a slow start. They had to rely on
Mhm.
Bowman to make some plays, and he was able to do that, and that's how they were able to get the game into overtime,
Eventually, yeah.
and then ultimately get them the W. So, yeah, that was huge. And to add insult to injury, after Oklahoma State, being down the whole game and having to claw their way back, they covered the point spread with the 2-point conversion in overtime. So, adding insult to injury if you're an Arkansas backer.
Yep. Oh man.
All right. Well, unless you guys had any other schools you wanted to bring up, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here and head on into the next round.
That's good. That's good. Man, that's good. That's what you call gumbo. Poor man gumbo.
And welcome back from the break as we're ready to hit the last segment of the evening, the sports gumbo. And the first ingredient getting thrown in is taken care of by Jeff. Jeff, go ahead, toss her in.
We are approaching the end of baseball season. We have about 15 games to go. And we'll just go ahead, rattle off the division leaders as we speak. The Yankees have a 1.5 game lead on the Orioles. Both those teams will get in the playoffs regardless of what happens.
Mhm.
And we have Cleveland having a 4.5 game lead over Kansas City, a 6 game lead over Minnesota, a 9 game lead over Detroit. The reason I bring Detroit into the mix is that they're only a couple games out of the wild
Yeah.
card,
As
and
bad
we
as the Central was last year, it's still crazy to think at least three teams in that division can probably make it,
I
if
think,
not
yeah,
four.
well, yeah, I mean, it will be 3 with Cleveland getting in. I think Kansas City is a almost certainty, and Minnesota will get in. And if one of those don't get in, it will be Detroit. So we'll see 3 AL Central teams shockingly get in the playoffs. We have Houston, who they're ahead right now, but they have really not done a good job of extending the division lead. They're on a 3 game losing streak. And
Currently losing to the A's as we speak, 5-4.
Yay.
and making things even worse, Seattle winning 3-0 at home on FS1 for those who want to see it, as you are
It's on
a
right now.
supporter. And
I'm watching it.
Because the Padres.
so they could only be 3 games out of the West. So the Mariners, who were thought to be dead to rights, are still, in fact, very much in it. In the NL East, we have the Phillies, uh, you know, 8 games ahead of the Mets right now, 9 games ahead of the Braves. The Braves have finally gotten out of the wild card race. The Acuna injury, the Spencer Strider injury, even with the performances of Marcell Ozuna and Cy Young winner, probable Cy Young winner, and Chris Sale, that may not be enough. We have the Milwaukee Brewers 8.5 games ahead of the Cubs. I think the Cubs at this point, there's not enough time for them to get back into the wild card mix. And as far as the West, we will be seeing 3 West teams. The Dodgers are along with the Phillies, are arguably the 2 best teams, if not in baseball, certainly the best in the National League. We have the former NL champions and the Diamondbacks 4.5 out of the West, along with our beloved Padres only
We're
being
losing.
4.5.
They're losing right now.
Even though
Losing.
they're losing at the moment.
Losing.
But the Padres have finally
Yeah.
clicked.
They've finally turned the corner, it seemed like.
They finally clicked,
Not in there yet.
and I really think a huge part of them turning the corner is the fact that they have the right manager in
place. I think that
No, it's all Jerks and Profar. That's the only reason. He's the only reason they're doing anything right now. Jerks and Profar.
they had the former NL Manager of the Year, Mike Schilt, who is the manager of the Cardinals. I'm officially a Schilt head. I am a number one fan of Mike Schilt. So I think that the Padres are a team to watch out for. Again, even though they're losing tonight, they will be
They should be in the
playing
playoffs.
postseason.
They're
They
going
will
to get
be.
knocked out.
Very
of the playoffs.
unusual.
I'm going to laugh and laugh and laugh.
I think they can make a run, but
Good.
I want to bring up our
That's
Texas
so funny.
Rangers.
What's gonna happen?
They have been playing fairly well as of late. However, we got smoked by the Diamondbacks for 2 games in a row. However, things to look forward to. Yes, 14-4 and 6-0. So a combined 20-4 shellacking in that 2-game series on the road at Arizona. However, 2 things to look forward to. We will have the major league debut of Kumar Rocker. And we will have the return of Jacob deGrom on Friday.
Yes.
So, obviously, very excited to see Kumar Rocker. He's done a phenomenal job so far at the minor league level. He more than deserves an opportunity at the next level. Again, deGrom has had a great recovery. He's it's going to be exciting to see him play again. Much speedier recovery than I anticipated. And then the next night, we're anticipated to see Scherzer return as well for whatever that's worth. But kind of ironic, all the pieces are aligning this weekend for the Rangers in the rotation department. But should be interesting to see, even though there will be obviously nothing on the line. And that is my baseball.
Very nice.
Very nice. Very informed. Way to catch everybody up there. So you're saying the Rangers still are, they're not out yet, though.
Oh, they're out.
No, I'm
They're not out.
saying they're. Oh my God, they're technically not out. They have a 0.1% chance of getting into the playoffs. So there you go.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance they need to win 16
Every game.
in a 16 games in a row and get help.
Mm-hmm.
Saying there's a chance.
Saying there's.
All right, Caleb, what did you have to throw in?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw in some U.S. men's soccer news. We finally know who's going to succeed Greg Berhalter, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, so apologies. Mauricio Pochettino. And Jeff can
Sounds
correct me if
correct.
I said him wrong.
Mauricio Pochettino.
There you go. Thank you, Jeff. Former Chelsea coach, former PSG coach. He is foreign born for sure, as we know. He's the second coach since the German guy that used to be here. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on names.
Are you referring to Jurgen?
Yes, Jurgen. Okay. Apparently I need my nap. Yeah, Jurgen. He's the second foreign-born coach since Jurgen played for us. They have not announced his salary just yet, but he's going to be coming in and taking over and the coach probably for the World Cup.
Correct, and that'll probably be the extent of his participation. And then at
I
that
think he's
time,
going to stay.
no, I mean, typically what they do with these coaches, especially the amount of money that they're paying Pochettino at this time, is their U.S. is not going to continue to pay him, year after year at that price level. He is here to, to make sure that they go to the World Cup and have some success in the World Cup. And then once he does the service here, then he'll go back to one of the top teams in Europe, whether that be a Premier League team like he was in Chelsea or PSG like he was prior to that, or even Hotspur where he's at before. So
So yes, he'll do his 2 years here roughly, and then he'll be out the door. But I think it's a great hire because really, I think it'd be fair to
Yeah.
say
So he's
that
got a couple championships and led Chelsea to the League Cup final against Liverpool last year.
right.
Or,
So I mean,
excuse me, 2023. So 2 years ago.
yeah. So I mean, basically, you got someone that's on the free agent market. That's the top 5 coach in European soccer. So I think it's a fantastic pickup, and I don't think the U.S. has had anyone anywhere close to the level of this guy. Maybe you can entertain the idea of putting Jurgen Klinsmann in that category, but as far as Pochettino, I don't think there's any no question he is the best coach that the U.S. has ever had. So we will see how it works out.
Yeah. So I think it's a good hire. We'll just have to
Fantastic.
see how time tells. And if he can get this team disciplined too. Way too many red cards in that Copa.
All right. Well, English Premier League is back again this week after taking
Speaking
a
of
week
soccer.
off.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, speaking of soccer.
again. And the big rivalry matchup, Tottenham Arsenal, Sunday morning, bright and early, 9 a.m. So get to 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. So get to watch this before any American football starts up. But
Yep.
big one here for Arsenal. They're currently 4th in the table. Tottenham's 10th. Only 1 win for Tottenham and 2 wins for Arsenal with that controversial tie with Brighton a couple weeks ago, where Declan Rice got his first ever career red card. So, yeah, this is going to be one here to watch. Get ready. The Hotspurs will be coming in hard. They'll be going and play them at home. So we'll be watching here at the Porter household and have a nice update for that here next week.
Yeah, and also too, looking at Tottenham, they lost to Newcastle their prior game 2-1, which is obviously an upset.
Newcastle has a pretty good team this year. They were decent last year, but I think they've started out really better this season than they have.
Yeah, I think Newcastle was a pleasant surprise last year, and yeah, so far as you alluded to, they've certainly grown on that momentum that they gained last year, and so and really, what's interesting about that Newcastle team, very very Britain oriented. You see a lot of these, top teams, just have obviously players from all over the world, but really their team is filled strictly with English players by and large. So for the success that they've had, it's pretty remarkable.
That is true. That's true. So we're looking forward to that here, and I think that's about all we had here for the gumbo here this evening. So
No.
it is another fun week here has now come to an end. So we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. We enjoy bringing this content to you every week. And as we always say, go ahead and like and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. Write in if you have any subjects or any games or anything you'd like for us to talk about. We would love to hear back from you and get you involved here in the show. So please like and subscribe so we can continue keeping this going. And I thank Jeff Amos, Caleb Culver for joining us here this evening. Thanks again, guys. And we'll see everyone here at the next round. Cheers.
Get you then, brother.
Cheers.